Alright, good morning and welcome to Apex Online Racing. We're here today for round number 10 of Season 2 of the PS4 Oceania League. My name's Alex, some of you might know me as Curly, and I'll be providing the broadcast for you today for this 31 laps around Singapore. Very difficult circuit to drive. It's tough, it's technical, high curbs. The walls are very close. This is going to be a real test for the drivers. They sort of negotiate their way around this circuit. It really is, one of the most difficult, if not perhaps the most difficult race on the calendar. Not quite as tough to make it round as Monaco, but it's a much longer race, and there is also the opportunity, the chance of some rain here. It doesn't happen too often in Singapore, but if it does, then the track will become very treacherous very quickly. And we're going to have a look just quickly at the standings and results from the previous race. It was a really fantastic affair last time out in Monza, and if you missed that one, I would highly recommend checking it out. Really was a brilliant race in the end. Dubsy clinching the win by 30 thousandths of a second after a stop-go penalty was applied. So, yeah, Dubsy picking up the win. Maznat with a good P2. And yeah, it really was, incredibly tight on the final lap, and no idea who was going to win the race up until both drivers had crossed the line. Then in third place was Prying Stingray on a reserve drive, and fourth was Whimpernator on a reserve drive as well, with Contrast filling out the rest of the top five. So the reserve drivers having a great time out in Italy. And happy to see a couple of those guys on the grid today. We are missing a couple of drivers, but should be some really good battling out there. In particular, looking at the Drivers' Championship at the moment, we've got Maznat out front with 190 points. Following him is Dubsy with 150, so a 40-point gap. There's 6 races remaining. Dubsy really needs to win every single race of the season remaining if he wants to have, a guarantee of winning that title. If Maznat has some poor luck in the next few races, then it may get a little easier for Dubsy, and that might bring things closer. But for Maznat, he really just needs to pick up a win somewhere. He's been extremely consistent this season. He's been either first or second every single race of the season so far, so he's just got to keep that going. In third place, we've got LJB with 104 points, then Contrast with 89. Following them in fifth is Stylen with 63, then Tortoise with 51. We've got Frio, who has stepped back from the league, so I think there's a slight update needed there on the results. He had 36 points. I'm not sure if his seat has been filled full time or whether it's just reserve drivers in there at the moment. Then we've got Rumble with 32, Harry Tomato with 30, and Entei with 29. And then just outside of the top 10, we have Stewart with 18 points. That was off of his second place in Hungary. He's had 2 DNFs since then, so yeah, he'll be one to watch out for today, particularly around this circuit. I think he's going to go well. Then we've got Chucky in 12th place with 17 points, followed by Crema with 12, and then we've got a lot of drivers that are yet to make their way onto the into the top 10. And the drivers like Debros, Asaplish, Rizek, Azatak, Buckley, and so on. Those guys are still looking for their first points out, and there are also a couple drivers in there that are reserve drivers. And if they do get a full-time seat through the season, then their points that they scored as reserves will be added to their individual tallies. However, the points they scored for the teams they were driving for will not be added for, as the reserves are seen as league reserves rather than specific team reserves. In terms of lap times for Singapore Marina Bay Circuit, I would expect the pole time to be maybe a low 37. Somebody might dip into the 36s here. It's a circuit where practice really means a huge amount. It's such a long track, I think it's 23 or 24 corners, depending on what you sort of count as a corner on this circuit. And yeah, because of that, it makes it much more difficult to learn for the drivers. But we will stay on board with Stewart in the Haas as he comes down towards turn 1. You're looking for just after the black box up on the right there. get the car slowed down, clip this inside curb, don't run too wide over the second apex there, and just tuck the car nicely hard on the power out of 3. That's a good first couple of corners there for Stewart. You want to just be somewhat cautious on the brakes into 4. It's easy to run deep through there, and you can cost yourself quite a lot of time by just extending the entry of that corner. Now looking for those sort of arrows on the ground as you tuck the car into 5 and now down into 6. Just after that black box on the left hand side was the braking point. Hard on the power again, another black box. Very useful around this circuit for helping you pick out your braking points. Here you're looking just before the Rolex signing ends on the right. Throw the car in. Now just control the car and don't take too much of that curb on the inside. It'll really unsettle it. Get as close to this wall on the right as you dare, as you're just struggling to get the car slowed down slightly. Misses the apex a little bit. This is looking like a solid banker lap so far from the Haas driver. Just after the 100-meter board here on the left. Get the car tucked in once again, hard on the power. Now we're into the 3rd sector, very difficult section, lots of high curbs and tricky chicanes as Stewart misses the apex of the first one there. He's very close, actually scratching the wall on the exit there. Now under the bridge, once again very difficult on the curbs. In the final chicane, he's a little bit deep there as well, so he's struggling a bit, as we do have Overdyking joining the party. We are live, by the way, buddy. As we watch Stewart cross the line, and he does take provisional pole. At the moment it's a 38.0, but that 3rd sector was a little bit scruffy. I think he might go on for a 3rd lap. Who also we got in the final sector. We've got LJB making his way around. Dom, do you have invites to the session? Yeah, you do. Just seeing you join now. Sweet. Fantastic. LJB coming around the final corner, once again a little bit wide. There, you want to be taking a lot of curb on the inside. That's a little bit of a disappointing lap, I think, for LJB. He's only at a 38.9. He's going to see some big improvements from the drivers. Dubsy round the final corner. What can he do? He goes provisional pole with a 37.6. So that's the best time on the board by 4/10 at the moment. Yeah, it seems like a lot of drivers just struggling a little bit on their first laps and not able to put in maybe the times that they were putting down in practice. But this really is a circuit where you're going to want to do 3 or 4 attempts in qualifying. It's such a long lap that hooking up that perfect qualifying lap is so difficult here compared to other circuits. So Dubsy is pad as well. Now, looking at the circuit, is really, the first and second sector, from what I've seen, is quite even, but it's the chicanes in the 3rd sector. That quick change of direction is partly what the pad drivers will be struggling with here. And it's not all bad, because in the race, I have spoken with a couple of the guys, and there is some feeling that the pad can be a little better on the rear tires at times, and this is a very rear limited circuit, so they might struggle for 1 lap pace in qualifying comparatively, but maybe as the race goes on and the tire wear really kicks in, and this is a track that can be quite tight on tire wear. We are expecting a 1-stop. It's the 2-stop is quite a fast strategy, but obviously overtaking at this circuit is difficult to pretty much impossible at times. So expect to see the drivers aiming for that 1-stop. Those starting on the ultra softs. Again, it really depends on how good their tire wear is. They might head for a set of softs, or maybe even a set of super softs if they're feeling quite light on their tires. And the other big point we'll see in the race as well is the undercut here is giant. It's such a long circuit, so many corners, that a fresh set of tires gives you a massive gain. And now that's another thing with the the sort of soft or super soft choice. The soft will be good the whole race through, and the drivers will the drivers won't be too worried if they go on that tire about really falling off the cliff towards the end of the race. Whereas the people that go in the super softs, they'll be very fast in the midpoint in the race, laps sort of 10 to 20. They'll be maybe a second a lap faster than the soft runners, but then towards the final section of the race, they're going to start to struggle. In terms of other wheel drivers, I think we've got Tortoise as well, who's shown some good pace at points this season. I'd have to check with more of the drivers to see who's on which input. But yeah, I mean, it's not it's not such a big difference as a track like Monaco, for example. But I think there is maybe 2 or 3 tenths in that sort of final sector for these guys to find. But it's so difficult to just hook up the perfect lap around here. I think it'll really come down to who can just get something sort of solid on the board. Simply just a fact of having that many apexes on the one circuit. Yeah, problem for these guys that have come out a little earlier. Him and Stewart and Maznat as well, really struggling with traffic in the first sector. All the drivers coming out of the pits to start their out laps and do a sort of one final run in qualifying. So yeah, I think these guys have been compromised a little bit. There's just so many cars in front of them on track. It's difficult to get a clear run. As Prying Stingray, who I think as well is another one of our wheel users, has gone to the provisional pole. He's a tenth ahead of Dubsy, and he's shown some fantastic pace once again this season, like he did last season. He was third on track in Monza. So him and Stewart, we know that they have the pace to be right up there today, and we'll keep an eye on them as Stewart is still going in his in max fuel mix, so he's maybe not completely bailed out of this lap. We'll keep an eye on him as he crosses the line, just struggling a little with the traction out of that final chicane, now through the final corner. I was expecting to see drivers using more of that curb on the inside, but they've been quite cautious through there. And now Maznat coming through the final section as well, and will he be able to improve from what is a little bit of a disappointing P6 at the moment? And he doesn't improve, so he's got it. Oh, he does slightly, but not enough to really make an impact. He's got it all to do on this final lap. And there's an absolute train of cars coming down the pit straight to start their laps right at the very end of the session here. So that is the checker flag waving now. Contrast will not be able to get another lap in. Who do we have far around? There's a massive train behind Dubsy at the moment. Yeah, the trouble for Stingray here is that this is a timing thing. Asaplish, he's a few seconds off of the pace on his lap, and he might have struggled a little bit on that lap, but he's got every right to continue on with his qualifying lap. So really, that comes down to Prying Stingray not giving himself enough space on the track to get his time in. Who do we have that's closest to the line? Stewart is coming under the bridge now. Such a difficult section of track. Very easy to put it in a wall there. He's going through the final chicane all over the curbs. really aggressive, and now into the final corner, takes a very aggressive run through there. This time he's a little wide. He does improve, but he stays third, a 37.7. Also, we got Dubsy coming around the final corner. Can he take pole? He does. It's a 37.1. He's a long way ahead of the rest of the field. Maznat improves, but it's only a 37.7 for him as Pure Gold is about to cross the line. But I think he was slightly compromised by Chucky there, and he only improves to 6th place. Hold on, I'm going to turn my notifications off. Oh, I did not know this. Okay, so that is... Well, that's, yeah, okay, and it's raining hard as well. Look at that. It's absolutely pouring here in Merino Bay, and I think we're in for something special here. We don't know what the forecast is going to do. I haven't had any message from any of the drivers in terms of what the forecast will be, so we're really in the dark on this, but it looks very wet out there, and that might explain why some of the drivers were a little further off the times we were expecting from them, as the drivers will be adjusting their setup from qualifying, maybe maybe taking some fuel out of the car as well, as we do have the red lights coming on. It's round 10, Season 2, AOR Oceania on PS4, and it is lights out in Singapore. Away we go, and it's a cautious start for everyone. One of the Red Bulls in the background there making a brilliant getaway. I think that is Pure Gold with a fantastic start, but Prying Stingray is looking up the inside on Dubsy possibly. I think there's some contact there as he's pushing Dubsy. They're absolutely banging wheels through the first couple of corners, and it does look as if Prying Stingray just about gets his nose ahead of Dubsy, who attacks it back down into turn 4. Really difficult conditions for the drivers. Maznat just coming in behind both of them, and Dubsy looks to be getting his nose ahead slightly, but Prying Stingray is battling it all the way through. He really wants this lead, and he's going to hold the inside line there side by side. Again, beautiful driving from them so far. As we'll hop on board with Maznat, see if we can get a little bit of a better camera angle on this one. Prying Stingray, I think, is just edged into the wall there. It doesn't look as if he has any damage, though. And Dubsy going for a switchback, and that's a beautiful move from the reigning champion. I think he should just have enough to defend this position now, as he's going to throw it on the inside. No, they've made contact. Oh, Dubsy has made contact with Azatak as well. That's unfortunate there. Azatak's ended up spinning, and this has been an absolutely tragic start for Dubsy. It was looking so good, and I think he just totally locked up going into there and got sort of caught on Prying Stingray, and they're both miles down the field. So this does promote Maznat up into the lead of the race, and it's incredibly wet. It's difficult to see the drivers. Pure Gold into second, Stewart in third, Grinding Tortoise in fourth, Contrast is in fifth place. Then we got Chucky, Entei, LJB getting quite close to the back of Entei as well. That's another somewhat disappointing qualifying from LJB. He's got a bit of work to do in this race for being third in the championship. He's got a long way to go, as Prying Stingray making a move up on Rizek there, and Dubsy is all over the back of him already. All over the back of Rizek, as Prying Stingray has come into the pits to fix some wing damage. Yeah, he's lost a couple winglets there, so it's all gone horribly wrong for the opening for the guys in the front row there, and for Dubsy, it's going to be full on attack now. He's in a very difficult position. Dommy, I think you need to double check your microphone settings. Um, I'm not entirely sure that you're coming through on the stream, so just double check that.
I've just double checked it, and it appears that I really have to double check it because my voice is not allowed to be shared. So everything I said
Ooh.
before this point is unfortunately not recorded, but I'm here now. As we do see Dubsy making his way up to 11th place, he's just made his way past Rizek. He's now already 2.6 seconds ahead, so Dubsy looking really, really pacey as he's closing the gap rapidly to D-Bros as Maznat is fortunately the quickest.
Contrast all over the back of Chucky as well, coming through the final corner. He's going to look to make a move down into turn one. Extremely difficult braking zone here. He throws it down the inside, and Chucky's defending this pretty hard, actually. He was very late on the brakes there. Contrast has the inside line for turn three and gets his Renault up ahead back into 5th place. And apologies about the microphone issues there, and thank you to Tom in the chat for pointing that out. Big help, so thank you for that. But Contrast up into 5th now. Maznat just starting to stretch his legs a little bit out in front. What else? We've got some great midfield battling going on here. Ente getting quite close to Chucky, who's also pretty close to Contrast. And yeah, I mean, this race, if you go into a race and it's full wet in Singapore, every single person on the grid is going to be, you know, wondering how much they can get from this. You know, the guys that are, you know, maybe regularly outside the top 10 will, I think, be looking forward to it. Tricky conditions, but it's going to be a chaotic race, and for them it's going to be a great opportunity. There's a lot of drivers still yet to get their first points on the board this season as well, so for those guys this might be a great opportunity. One of them is D-Bros, who's currently sitting in 10th place, though he does have Dubsy starting to reel him in, as we've had an incident up front, as Pure Gold has lost a position to Stewart, and he's lost half of his wing.
Yeah, lost a part of the wing as well. Pure Gold, unfortunately, he was able to keep up with Maznat early on in the race and has just dropped off this lap, and now unfortunately made that mistake, so he's probably going to have to box and get a new wing before he drops even further down the field, as we do have Tortoise all over the back of him. Tortoise obviously has a full wing, so have a look what he can do here. I think Tortoise is just better off not passing now, just to wait until this spin fits, and then you can get back on chasing Stuart McKenzie, who's now back on P2 now. But Maznat, really, nothing can go wrong here for Maznat, it seems. But then again, the race is still 27 laps long, and Maznat just opens up lap 4 and posts a quicker time of 1:59.9. So the lap times are very, very long here. So it's going to be a long set. You know, when it rains around Singapore, it's going to be a very, very long race. So concentration does come into play.
Yeah, settle in, folks. We'll be here for a while on this one. It's going to be well, full wet. Singapore is the longest race time wise that you can get on the calendar. So yeah, concentration is going to be a big part of it, especially in such difficult conditions. I mean, Singapore is a low grip track to begin with, and it's very difficult in conditions like this to keep the car on the road, pretty much. But yeah, the drivers are managing okay so far. We've not seen too many people.
We're having Dubsy, sorry to interrupt, we're having Dubsy making a move on D-Bros, going into the, what is it, the hairpin, the second hairpin. I think, oh no, actually it's the first hairpin.
D-Bros fighting it back hard, but Dubsy gets the move done around the outside. Beautiful. Sorry, Tom, on you go.
He's fighting the move, but ultimately Dubsy, just to be in the quicker car, and D-Bros have to let him go. And now Dubsy hunts down and whimpering there. Dubsy looking very, very pacey. It's such a shame for him that whatever happened. But yeah, it's a little bit of his own doing, really, because he just didn't give Prime Stingray any space, and Stingray just had nowhere to go, and that made him force to go on. As we do see Dubsy running a rich mix, trying to get everything out of the car and really trying to hunt down Maznat. He's not really that far off Maznat. Let's have a look at the gap to the leader. He's only 17 seconds off, and I think he's looking very, very pacey. Potentially decreasing that gap as the race goes on, and I don't know if it's going to be enough to battle for the win, but you definitely get back to the podium spots if he keeps going like this.
Well, the main thing for Dubsy is that he didn't break his wing, and that's what's cost Prying Stingray so much time. But yeah, Dubsy, you know, he might have lost a massive number of positions, but He kept his car intact, and that's the main thing in conditions like this and such a long race. That, if you have to make an extra pit stop early on, you're losing, especially with a wing change right here. That's 30, 40, 35, 40 seconds maybe that you can lose. So that's why Prying Stingray is so far back. As Asaplish is out of the race, and I'm assuming this is a crash. It is, and that's I think the whereabouts is that? The bridge section, I think. And he is out of this race, so Asplish will not be in the hunt for his first points, as Prying Stingray is looking at the back of Pure Gold now. Both of these guys concertinaing up behind Azatak as Prying Stingray is getting very aggressive. I don't think I've ever seen a move around the outside of turn 3 like that before. He's got his car up into Rich. He's really going for it now down into turn 4, and he is up and ahead of both Azatak and Pure Gold. What a phenomenal aggressive move from Prying Stingray. Beautiful driving in the Mercedes, and he gets himself up into 12th. Pure Gold grabs the position as well. I expect to see these guys charging their way through the field. They've got a long way to go to the next car, which is Rizek. He's 10 seconds, 11 seconds up the road from them, but these guys have got some great pace, and expect to see that closing in maybe sort of 10, 15 laps time. But yeah, they just got to get their heads down and carry on and push on. But Dubsy getting close to the back of Whimpernator has a little look down the inside. Whimpernator's actually missed his braking point. He runs deep. I don't think he's damaged his wing there. I think he just avoided the wall, but Dubsy gains another position. He's up to 8th. He looks like a driver on an absolute rampage at the moment. I think there'll be some frustration in that Ferrari cockpit, and he's taking it out by driving beautifully at the moment. Dubsy flying through the field.
Flying through the field, and he's got 2 cars ahead, very close to the track, battling hard as well. I mean, Entei and Sir LGB going at it, and Sir LGB is trying to get past us. There's nowhere to go really with the Singapore track, and it's raining obviously as well, so very hard track to pass with these weather conditions. But Sir LGB trying everything he can to get past Entei with the charging Dubsy behind him. So this is going to be a very interesting situation here for Sir LGB. What is he going to do? Is he going to try and attack Entei, or is he going to let Dubsy go and let Dubsy do it and then maybe profit from it?
LJB practically pushing Entei through that final sector there, as Entei's run slightly deep into turn 4. Oh, but LJB struggling on the traction. He's got to look behind him and worry about this Ferrari. It's all over the back of him.
Going to go for the move here, Dubsy. And Sir LGB knows it, breaks early. But Dubsy's gone a little bit deep. It's a great switch back by Sir LGB.
Oh, Dubsy's thrown it back up the inside. LGB holds on. Beautiful move from LGB. Just let Dubsy make the move and then just cut back under him. Absolutely fantastic driving.
That's actually the first driver that's defended that position against Dubsy really, really hard, and he successfully done it. So Sir LGB staying in 6th for the moment with Dubsy behind him, and that really shows that even if you are a little bit quicker than the car in front, it can be very hard to overtake here with all the switchbacks and whatnot that can happen in the rain if they do catch up. Is that Chucky? Yeah, that is Chucky. They're catching up to Chucky, who's sitting in P5 and ultimately he's not on the pace of the Eye Contrast. He's also doing a great job in P4 with Tortoise still sitting behind Stuart McKenzie. They are now 8.8 seconds behind Mazda, but this battle for P2 is definitely on. As Stuart McKenzie seems to struggle a little bit in the wet. I think his dry pace was looking very good, but his wet pace is he's struggling a little bit.
He's got to worry about Tortoise as well, who's looking very racy, despite the fact he's got a very heavy car. He's taking a lot of fuel. That's an interesting choice in the full wet conditions. I'm not sure I agree with that one, but it seems to be working. And Tortoise looking very, very quick. He's just a couple tenths behind Stewart. He's not quite close enough to make a move down into turn 1, but
maybe they know something that we don't know. Maybe it's going to dry up, and Tortoise will be able to use that fuel later on in the race. But it doesn't look anywhere near drying up at the moment. As we do.
Dubsy showing the nose on LGB again. That was very aggressive. He's not going to get the move done there though, as this whole train is backing into catching up into Chucky now as Deep Rose heads for the pits. And strategy is something else entirely. I would no idea what the strategy would be. Will drivers go for a 1-stop or a 2-stop? I feel like if someone's got much pressure. Oh, Tortoise looking down the inside on Stewart. He's all over the curbs. He doesn't get the move done. It was a little bit ambitious.
Chucky's put it in the wall and he's retired straight away. That's going to anger him a little bit. Had such a great race, and then to go straight on and put it in the wall is just very unfortunate. And that is a race over.
Oh, Tortoise once again showing the nose, and he's hit Stewart. Oh, that was a careless move, and surely he'll have to wait for the Haas driver there, as Contrast has almost run to the back of him. But that was a really careless move from Tortoise, and will he wait or not? I don't think. No, he doesn't want to give up this position to Contrast, but. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure the stewards will hear something about that after the race. I can almost guarantee you that. He just, I don't even know what he was thinking there. But it does give Tortoise second position. Contrast is all over the back of him now, and where does that put Stewart? He's down in 8th place now. Is he missing some front wing? It's hard to tell. I don't think that he is, but yeah, he's lost a lot of ground from that. A really messy move there from Tortoise.
So unfortunate. Obviously, you can get very frustrated sitting behind the car for that long, but ultimately you just have to be patient. That's definitely not. Was Dubsy trying to get up the inside of the second to last corner? That's not a corner where you can get up the inside of a car normally. But he's managed it, but he's not been able to get it past.
Huge slide there as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Sir LGB doing a great job defending from Dubsy at the minute. This is definitely obstructing his way forward for Dubsy.
So as we currently stand, Maznat out in front. He's got 11 seconds back to Tortoise. Really looks in a league of his own at the moment, pace-wise. Then we've got Tortoise and Contrast close together, and then a little bit of a gap back to this midfield scrap. Entei up in 4th. That would be a phenomenal result if he can hold on to it. But he's got LJB, Dubsy, and Whimpernator breathing down his neck. And these are 3 very quick drivers that'll be looking, probably looking for a podium in most races they show up to. So, yeah, Entei's got a lot of work still to do. We're only 8 laps in. 31 in total. So this race is, we're still really in the opening phase, and full wet at Singapore really is more of a marathon. And for these guys, we're getting into the stages now where the concentration has really got to be good, and you've just got to get in a rhythm, and it's not a kind of situation where you can drive flat out. You've just got to get in a rhythm and drive smooth and consistently, and just make sure you don't end up in one of those walls like we've seen a couple people do so far. And especially with Chucky ending up in one of the walls, that would have been a phenomenal result for him.
Dubsy going for a move on the outside of Sir LGB. Has he managed this time to still going side by side? And Sir LGB will have the inside for the next corner, but Dubsy is still there, and he's had more pace going around that corner.
LJB's coming back at him. They're not going to go too wide under the bridge, surely. He kind of backs out a little bit there. I think that's the smart thing to do. Wow, great racing. Dubsy getting very, very aggressive. He's a man on a mission. He's all the way up to 5th now, and who knows, the podium's not necessarily out of the question for him. He's driving, very quickly and very aggressively as well. He's not afraid to make the moves here, and we'll keep an eye on the pit stops as well, whether anybody does come in for a 2-stop. I imagine that fresh tires in these sorts of conditions would be very, very quick. It's such a long lap, you can gain a huge amount of time, but I've got no idea what the actual tire wear is like in the wet. So who knows? It might end up being a comfortable, sort of easy 1-stop for these guys. We'll just have to wait and see, as Entei is consistently running deep into turn 4, and yeah, it's a difficult corner to get the car slowed down, but he seems to be having particular trouble with it, and it is causing him some hassles on this straight, as Stewart has lost some ground as well. He's broken his wing, so Stewart now down to 10th with half a front wing. He'll have to pit, and his race is going from bad to worse. In the last couple laps, he's just hit that wall there as well, really struggling to slow the car down. I think he just locked it up. So yeah, Stewart in big trouble here.
So unfortunate for sure. Looking very, very good in qualifying, and then well, those races indeed, but you said they've gone from bad to worse, and he's going to have to pit and then see if he can get nearer points. Race has just gone on. I think Stewart will be calling it a day. I don't know what he's going to be doing here. I don't think he's very motivated anymore to nationalise. He parks up the car and he's going to retire the car, unfortunately for Stewart. So that's Stewart's race over then, and Stewart will be looking forward to the next race, I think, which is at Malaysia. It's going to go back towards that battle with Dubsy and Entei, because the LGB is actually not sitting too far behind Dubsy. He's keeping up a little bit with the Dubsy now being all over the back of Entei, and surely Entei.
Very close running is the back of him.
Entei really struggling on the brakes in a couple of corners. as well, Dubsy, this really looks like a matter of time before Dubsy will make his move. He's got a good run on him in this last corner. And if he can get the last corner nice and tidy, he will be able to make a move into turn 1. Definitely
Much better
see how
run.
aggressive Dubsy is.
He's going to look down the inside into turn 1.
Is he going to do it? No, he's not.
I think he almost tried for it, but Entei was just so late on the brakes that he couldn't even pull alongside there. But something I'm noticing with Dubsy is he's absolutely clattering the curves in that third sector. He's a lot more confident than the other drivers on them. He's got a better line, much better line than Entei through turn 4. Entei runs deep again. Now he's in the slipstream, and surely this is it for Dubsy. He's got to make the move now. He pulls to the inside. Entei might well try cut back here as Dubsy throws it down the inside. He's well ahead as Entei does go for the switchback, trying to do what LJB did earlier on, but he's not quite able to get that done. And Dubsy is up into P4, and now we will see what kind of pace the Ferrari driver really has. He's got 6.5 seconds to the podium. He needs to get his foot down and start chasing after the Renault of Contrast as we have some yellow flags somewhere. I'm not quite sure where those are, but yeah, Dubsy now he's got some clean track in front of him and just needs to get his foot down and get after Contrast because yeah, he's finally made his way through the midfield. You got to say what a great recovery so far from him, and he's still got 21 laps to go. It's a long way.
Great drive by Dubsy so far, apart from that first lap, obviously, but looking good for Dubsy here, as he is now 5.8 seconds behind pure icon for that. So well, within the space of I think 1 or 2 sectors, he's managed to get the gap down from 6.5 to now 5.7 seconds of 5.7 seconds. So it's looking very good here for Dubsy. He's now 5.4 this day. This is a man on a mission, really.
He's absolutely flying. LJB and Whimpernator still tucked up behind Entei, who's had a bit of a train behind him for a long time at this point, and yeah, just seems to be struggling a little bit compared to the guys behind. Although, you know, in conditions like this, it can sometimes be easier to follow a car in front and see what they do and you know where they're getting it right and where they're getting it wrong and learn from that. So yeah, we'll see if LGB is able to get past if he is much quicker, but he's holding on to the back of Entei quite nicely, but just struggling to make any kind of move. Interestingly enough, Prying Stingray somehow found himself up in 8th place, even after that early pit stop, setting the fastest lap of the race, and yeah, he's about 12 seconds behind this midfield battle. And you know, this is the thing about long, wet races, is that, you know, I kind of disagree with anybody that pulls off and retires. I have heard from Stuart that he was having some issues with his wheel not working properly, so that may be why he retired. But yeah, it's such a long and difficult race that, you know, you've got every chance of having 10 or fewer finishers. So no matter where you are on track and you know how bad it looks, just keep your head down and keep going, because there might be a couple points in it for you at the end of the day. And you know, the guys sitting outside the top 10 at the moment, they're a fair amount back, but you know, they'll be hoping for a couple more incidents up front, as I've got Whimpernator's car just jammed on the rev limiter. That's a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, Whimpernator voice. It's not down on my screen, but anyway, Sir LG still being very close to Entei, but not being able to make any sort of move. As we have Entei just having a great race and defending that quite well. It's just that every time Sir LGB tries to get a good run, it's just not good enough. Like we saw with Dubsy being all over the back of him after turn 4. Sir LGB's just not managing it.
Yeah, looking at the gaps up front as well, Maznat still increasing the lead, closing up to 14 seconds ahead of Tortoise now. He just seems to be in a league of his own at the moment, setting fast, consistent times. Dubsy is catching Contrast as well. He's brought that gap down a couple seconds. There we go, fastest lap from the Ferrari, showing some phenomenal pace here, and he doesn't even have some fresh tires on like Prying Stingray does. So Dubsy is the fastest man on track at the moment, and really just, you know, he's properly a man on a mission, as LJB just cannot get past Entei. He's closer now than he has been, so See if he's able to get anything done into turn 4. Once again, we keep seeing this. Entei, he's just struggling to get the car into there. I think he might be braking slightly too late, but LJB's in the tow now. He's a little further back than what Dubsy was, though. Will he just throw it down the inside? No. Entei seems very late on the brakes into there, and yeah, LJB, he's going to have to set this move up and get it done, because I feel like he's been held up quite a lot now.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Oh, Entei runs really deep. This is a good chance here for LJB. He's alongside him now. But he's not. Is he alongside? No, he's not. No, he backs out again. So Sir LJB being really being held up. Sir LJB not making any mistakes, just driving cleanly, and Entei's just all over the place, going deep everywhere. We do have a yellow in sector 2 and 3. So I don't know who that is for. I'm just looking through the field. It is Jordan Dittmer who's spun the car.
He's had a spin there.
And that's why the yellow flag is waving where it's waving. Dittmer lets go Winternator, LTB and Entei. He's now back on the circuit. But then again, like Jordan Dittmer's he's a lap down obviously, but he's, as you said, he's going to be hoping for points towards the end of the race, because it's such a long fit. That surely Jordan Dittmer will have a shot at points later on in the race. As this race progresses, with the search for LGB still being all over the back of Entei. Taking a tight line to that corner, but really struggling on the traction. It seems the braking seems fine for Entei, but the traction is just not there. I don't know if he's going for a dry setup, and that might be the problem with the traction and his oversteer. But he's doing a good job in P5. Let's not lie about that. 7.7 seconds behind Dubsy is really eating into that gap with your eye contrast now. 2.8 seconds of a gap. So surely we'll be able to see a move from Dubsy within within 2 laps time. And the pure eye contrast himself is I think catching up to the back of Tortoise. So a battle for P2 is on the cards there between these two.
Yeah, Contrast is he's looked pretty good in the wet before, so I'm not too surprised to see him, well up there and closing as well on Tortoise, who did look very quick earlier on, but seems to have been struggling a little bit. And once he had that moment with Stewart, I don't think his pace has been quite as strong, but. Yeah, I mean, once again on this sort of little midfield tussle, LGB definitely being held up considerably, and you look at Stingray, that gap was 12 seconds, I think, about 4 laps ago. It's now down to 7.5 between Stingray and Wimpinator, so he's really catching up to this group as well. And if I were LGB at this point, I would be looking for maybe the pit lane. Find some possible way to get past Entei and get myself into some clean air and push on, because right now he's kind of staring down the barrel of a 6th place, which I think would be a little bit of a disappointment for him.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to see the gas pitting very soon. It's obviously lap 13 out of 31, and usually if you do a one-stop, you're in a pit on the halfway point. But, we might see one of these midfield guys, LGB or Wimpinator or even Entei, trying to undercut the competitors and maybe pitting in lap 14 or 30. So let's have a look what they're going to do here. I think most of them will continue on, are they? Yes, they are. No one's going for the pit lane just yet. I don't actually know if you can get these times all the way to the end, but I wouldn't really think you can.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting point, actually. I mean, so for those watching who maybe don't know, in a full wet race, if you run the wet tires or the intermediate tires, you don't have to make a pit stop. The sort of 2 tire compound doesn't apply, and there's no requirement there for you to come into the pit. So if these guys are sitting out here and they're on lap 14 and maybe the tire wear is extremely low and they're only at say 30% on their tires, and they might just say, you know what, I'm going to run the entire race on this compound. It's not totally out of the question. LGB having a lunge on Entei, that's very aggressive, and Entei didn't really see it coming, but is he going to get it done though? He's going to go for a switchback again, but no, he's not got the traction there.
He's not had the traction, no. He's not got the traction. I mean, Entei is all over the place on traction, but Sir LGB himself is not the cleanest at the moment. Maybe just because he's so frustrated.
Yeah, I think so.
Flooring the car, just flooring the car everywhere, everywhere out of the corners, and that just compromising his exit is really not not keeping his station, do you, LGB?
Yeah, it could be a very difficult position, you know, in a wet race like this, and just stuck behind another car and not able to get through can get quite frustrating the longer it goes on for. And LJB has been jammed behind Entei for, well, geez, I want to say at least 10 laps now, pretty much the whole race, I think. He's been stuck here. So, yeah, you know, thinking on the pit stops, if these tires are good enough to go to the end, yeah, would it be faster to do that? That's the thing. You've got to weigh it up. You know, how much quicker is a new set of wet tires going to be, and you know, can you make up the pit stop? It's quite a long pit stop here. You're looking at you know, between sort of 25 and 30 seconds on track for a pit stop. So you know, it's a very long time. You'd realistically need to be probably a second and a half faster per lap, which isn't out of the question. Here, you know, these guys are doing lap times at pretty much 2 minutes, so it's 1.5 seconds is not too much out of that. But yeah, it just depends, you know, whether these guys want to risk it, and if they are going to make this, you know, this pit stop. Surely someone like LGB is going to try and undercut Entei, because he can't afford to be stuck behind him for the whole race. Entei once again very late on the brakes there, and LGB just struggling to get through. And it's so important in this situation as well, if you are the car stuck behind, that you don't throw it away. You know, it can be frustrating sitting there and you're jammed behind another car, and you know there might be more points you could possibly get up the road, but you know, you're sitting on 8 points already. It's important that you don't go and try a ridiculous move and end up in a wall. You know, there is some patience required, even though it's a very frustrating situation.
Yeah, and Douglasy already 12.6 seconds ahead of the battle he was just in, so that really just proves the point how quick Douglasy is and how good he is on this track. And he's now only 1.2 seconds behind the Raikkonen class, who did make a mistake, I think, because he was 1.3 seconds behind Tortoise, and it was 2.3 earlier as it is now. So that's very unfortunate for Raikkonen, and he's still in the podium battle, but ultimately with Douglasy being behind him, and he's down 0.7 behind him, Douglasy. It almost looks like he's got hacks like for extra grip. It's so quick, isn't he?
Yeah, Dubsy is he's something special in the wet. We've seen that before. He's very, very quick in these conditions, and he is catching up onto the back of Contrast now.
I have noticed. Sorry to interrupt, but I have noticed now, and it's surprising I only see it now. He's lost a bit of his wing, Dubsy.
Yeah, so now here's the question: has he been missing that for a while, or is this a recent thing? It doesn't seem to be slowing him down. And it is an interesting thing. I've seen this a couple times before, where, you know, drivers, they'll lose a little bit of their front wing, and you know, in the wet, maybe if you're set up, maybe if he's gone for quite an aggressive setup in, you know, like a dry setup for qualifying, he was on pole by a long way. You know, let's say he's running a high ballast and maybe not quite as high wings, and it's a little unstable. You know, chipping off a bit of your front wing can at times even balance the car in conditions like this. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see if he changes it if he pits, but normally it will cost you time. But it's, you know, there can be the odd sort of situation where it's not the worst thing in the world to lose a little bit of the front downforce. But whatever it is, he shows the nose. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Way too aggressive there.
That was never going to work, unfortunately, for Dubsy. As he now loses a lot of time to Raikkonen because of it. Now a full second behind him, but I'm sure within a few corners he'll be right up the rear again. And then Magnite have 16 points.
Oh, hold on a moment. Entei is down in 9th. We missed this. Has he made a pit stop? Let's find out. He has. So Entei has come into the pits. He's made a stop. And now we'll see as Prying Stingray is caught up to the back of LGB and Wimpernado. That's how much time they lost behind Entei. Prying Stingray has made up a 12-second deficit. He's on the back of them now, and he has got slightly fresher tyres than these guys as well. So he's looking incredibly racy. Prying Stingray all over the back of Wimpernado. Look at this. He's practically pushing him through the third sector.
Tortoise is going for that pit stop, as Magnite still continued on lap 17. So that would suggest. Well, the front three at the minute are going for the no stop, with the Tortoise fitting another.
That's interesting. LJB pits as well, so he's covering off Entei, but I feel like he sort of missed the opportunity here. He should have gone for the undercut, but Prying Stingray making the move on Wimpernere down into turn 1, and he's just about ahead. He does go up and through. Prying Stingray, he's been incredibly quick so far in this race. He's up into 4th now from what was looking like way out of the points at the start of the race. I'm amazed that he's made it back up to 4th, but he's absolutely flying at the moment. Him and Dubsy just charging their way back through the field. They got just phenomenal pace. Now LJB, is he going to come out of the pits ahead of Entei? It's going to be really close, actually. I think LGB is just about going to have it. They're going to be side by side into turn 3 as Entei swoops around the outside. And has he maintained that position? I think they're still side by side. So LGB's got an opportunity here, possibly, as Entei's defending the inside. But LGB's going to get the cutback on him. And they're side by side. He's struggling on traction a little bit. And Entei's ahead and sort of through. But LGB will come back at him down towards the braking zone at turn 5. He's later on the brakes. He's on the inside. Surely he's got to make the move. And they're side by side again, really battling hard, these two. And LGB now on the outside. He's not able to be much later on the brakes, but he carries good speed through the middle of the corner. And there's contact between them. A lot of wheel banging. And LJB goes through. I'm not quite sure whose fault that was. It looked maybe slightly that Entei came across this line a little bit, but LJB's grabbed the position. And finally, after 18 laps of Singapore, LJB gets past Entei.
Yeah, so that will be a massive relief for LJB. As now we'll now be able to find out what his true pace is now on his fresh tyres, and we will be able to see as well.
Oh, Contrast and Dubsy in the pits.
So Contrast and Dubsy are making a pit stop with the Mazda after 18 laps, looking to bring the tyres on. So all the way to lap 31.
Yeah, it's strange in this situation.
Everyone's pitting apart from Mazda.
Yeah, it's weird in this situation that they're so late in the pits. I mean, lap sort of 17, 18, that's a very late pit stop in a wet race. Normally you'd go at halfway, or maybe even just before halfway and get a bit of an undercut going. But these guys have extended this stint, and now, interestingly enough, Pure Gold is up into 4th place as well. He made that early pit stop, so he might have another one to go, but yeah, Contrast maintaining his position over Dubsy in the pits, and well, the question is, how long will these tires last, and can guys like Wimpernere and Maznat edge these tires to the end of the race? Still got a very, very long way to go, 13 laps, so yeah, this is interesting. We'll see if Maznat pits this lap. He's got a huge buffer behind him, so he doesn't really have to worry much. But maybe for Wimpernere, this could be sort of race, breaking or making right here, whether he can make it to the end.
Yeah, obviously, if you're Maznat and you've got that big of a buffer behind you, surely pitting would be a wisest option. Because you don't want to be at risk of puncturing your tyre potentially and throwing away what looks like a sure win. So we'll have a look at, and then we're on board with Maznat and see what's happening here, if he's going to chuck it into the pits. So yes, he is, and I don't know why he left it that late, to be honest.
Oh, Dubsy on a bit of a cutback here on Contrast. He's got a good exit out of the hairpin. He's all over the back of the Renault. Will Contrast defend the inside? He does, and Dubsy's just careered straight into the back of him. Wasn't expecting Contrast to take that line. I don't think it doesn't look as if he's broken his wing. Dubsy didn't fix his wing in the pit stop either, so he's happy with the balance of that car, and you have to say it's looking pretty good from his perspective. He doesn't seem to have any sort of understeer issues, but yeah, Contrast holding on for now, but Dubsy just looks so quick.
Yeah, I don't know if that contact actually did lose him a little chunk of his front wing without seeing it, but surely it'll be interesting to see what Dubsy's pace is like now as the Wimpernere keeps on going. So Wimpernere, would it be a potential race winner? I don't know. Toto is already catching up to the back of him. Toto is looking really quick on this fresh set of wet tyres. But I want to refer back to Maznat. I don't know why Maznat has decided to leave it this late, because there was absolutely no reason for him to leave it that late. There was no traffic around him, so why not pit at the halfway point?
Might just possibly be that he was waiting to see what the other cars did behind him. If you've got that big of a gap, you can really sort of pick and choose when you're going to pit, and Maybe pivoting later, it just gives him confidence that you'll have better tires towards the end of the race. And let's say he makes a mistake and has a spin or something, it would give him the tire life to keep fighting on. But yeah, or maybe he's just realized at that point that the tires wouldn't make it to the end, and they've had to bail into the pits a little bit later.
I'm having a look now at the gap between Wimpinator and Tortoise, and Tortoise is actually not catching up to Wimpinator as quick as I thought. Not really all over the back of him yet, and Wimbledon is doing a great job. If he can get these sides to the end, I think he's got a good shot at the podium here. And Dubsy is still all over the back of the pure eye contrast, but there's simply no way past him just yet. I do think that the wing damage he has now is potentially restricting him from getting past pure eye contrast here into your face. With the car, it's all right, but it looks a little bit understeery now. And I mean, if you like that, you're all right. It does not seem to have the turn in for the corner really. He's tucking it in, trying to tuck it in early to make sure the car actually gets around the corner. So still stuck behind pure icon. Let's have a look if he can do anything on the straight. If he can get a good run. But this will be your corner, this last corner where he'll struggle with his wing damage and probably will not be able to take as much speed as pure eye contrast. As you can see here, pure eye contrast getting away from him a little bit into that corner as we now head towards turn 1. And there's no way to throw the car the inside from that far back. I mean, we've seen that a couple of times in other leagues, in other divisions, and that does not work. Does not work at all, especially in the rain. As Debros picks up a 5-second stop and go penalty for exceeding track limits. So, well, he surely exceeded them quite far as he picks up a 5-second stop and go. And in the meantime, Tortoise has caught up to the back of Wimpinator. Now the gap is 0.6 of a second. And let's have a look at what this guy will be able to do. And he has a lot of fuel still left in their tank. So potentially, a little bit of a wrong fuel strategy for Tortoise. But he will be able to run Rich for quite a long time. I think if he puts it into Rich, he'll be able to get it all the way to the end of the race.
The thing is though, running Rich in these conditions, I wouldn't want to run Rich in these conditions, especially in the traction zones, because you're so much more likely to spin the car. A lot of times in the wet, running lean can actually be faster through the slow sections, simply because you'll have more confidence. And if you're in Rich there, it's, you've got every possibility of oversteering into a wall, so he's got to be careful of that. But it does seem as if he's going to be a little bit more aggressive on the fuel. As Dubsy making the move on contrast. Switch to this, they are side by side coming down into the third sector. Dubsy has the inside line coming into the chicane. Contrast is battling it hard, but I think Dubsy is just about up and through, as it's almost impossible to see the cars from that camera angle. But Dubsy does get the position. He's up into 5th, and he's got a 4-second gap to Pure Gold in front of him. Dubsy's still on the charge here in Singapore, as these guys are just starting the concertina up behind Wimpinator, who's got a long way to go on these tyres. I think he's committed to this now. It's probably too late to make that final pit stop.
Lost a part of his wing, he's pitting.
Has he definitely lost a part of his wing?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, right front. The gap was 4 seconds, and as I looked to see what that gap was, it was down to 2.5 already. So I assumed something happened, and it did for Pure Gold. So his race looking very good, but this is so unlucky for him. And he's in the out pits and has a fresh set of tyres, so he will be able to push these tyres all the way to the end and give it his all. But it's now down in P9, unfortunately for Pure Gold, and it doesn't look like we'll be getting near Ente anytime soon. Because Ente is quite far down the road. With Grunt and Tortoise still being stuck behind Wimpinator. Wimpinator lagging a little bit on my screen, but that just might be because I'm that far away from these guys, like globe-wise. But if Wimpinator is lagging on Tortoise's screen, that's going to cause another problem for him, because you want to get past, but you can't get too close onto his rear. If that's the case, as Maznat has now edged his gap back to 16.5 seconds, so Maznat surely, if anything doesn't go wrong, then Maznat is going to pick up a win here. But the battle for the podium positions is still interesting enough, as Dubsy is still behind Grunt and Tortoise and catching up to them massively. I think Tortoise has definitely been held up here. I think Wimpinator's not pitted yet, has he? No, he's not made a pit stop yet, Wimpinator. And with the Grunt and Tortoise having the fresh tyres, surely has all the grip he needs to be able to get past Wimpinator. But Wimpinator is just having a good race and defending this nicely. still sitting in P2.
Yeah, this is the point where Impernator needs to imagine that he's a member of the Scottish football team and park the bus and defend for the next 20-30 minutes or so. He's got a long way to go on these tyres, and it's a bold strategy. He clearly thinks that he can get them to the end just about, and once again, you do not have to make a pit stop in these wet conditions. You can.
He's struggling so much in that last corner. Now pure eye contrast, it's all over the back of him. Now you can see that wing damage is really hurting Dubsy because he's not getting away from pure eye contrast.
Contrast trying it around the outside, but he's run out of road there. He's going to go for a bit of a switchback, but Dubsy just closes the door there, not quite able to get that done. We'll keep an eye on Tortoise and Wimpinator as well. Wimpinator getting a great exit out of turn 4. His contrast going to be better on the traction than Dubsy. Not really. These guys struggling maybe a little in the dirty air to keep up with the car in front, as Tortoise is still trying to find a way past Wimpinator. He's not able to do it yet. Contrast, is he able to get anything done? No. So these guys, they just got to hang on for now and hope that, you know, some kind of error happens in front of them. But if Wimpinator is able to pull this strategy off, he's played an absolute blinder to get himself up into second on a no-stop strategy from, I think it was 9th or 10th on the grid. He's come from a long way back.
Wimpinator doing a great job, and if he would be able to pull this off, that would be a very inspirational strategy, and it'll be very happy with that.
I've definitely got my notebook out, jotting this down for tonight's race. You'll see if he's able to hold on to it, but Tortoise giving him a lot of pressure. Still half a second, always breathing down his neck. Contrast as well. Very close to Dubsy. Dubsy, who's run very deep. Dubsy's in the wall, and Contrast is through. Dubsy, I think he's missing more front wing than he was earlier for sure. And well, will he think about maybe? I don't know. Will he think about a pit stop? Or are you going to edge it out to the end? He seems to be struggling quite a lot now.
Well, he's got a gap. Oh, he's hit the back of Pure Icon again. He's got a gap of 4.8 seconds to Stingray. And then a further 9-second gap from Stingray to LTB. So I don't know if it's worth pitting as Dubsy. He's struggling to grip so much, and let's see what he does here. No, he stays out.
Only 9 laps to go though. So
you can see in this corner, there's no grip for him in the last corner. Absolutely no grip for me. The car just wants to understeer on like a boat. With Dubsy holding on for the minute as the gap now it comes down to 3.5 seconds. So Stingray eating into that gap. Obviously, we know Stingray is one of the quickest guys out there, and he's got his full wing, so he'll be eating into that gap.
Oh, Tortoise is very close to Wimpinator now. This is the best opportunity he's had within 2/10 going down the straight. Wimpinator's got some really good straight line speed. In fact, look at that. He's pulling away. Tortoise tries it on the brakes around the outside, but he's not going to get that done. He's very close. Wimpinator will have to defend.
He's going to go up. He's going to go up the inside. Yes, he is. Wimpinator trying to defend that move, but the defensive move was late, and it nearly put Tortoise into the wall. Tortoise
getting the cutback.
The cutback yet again. And
they're going to be side by side going down towards the bridge. This isn't really an overtaking position. They're going to have to be really careful through here to not end up in a wall, as Tortoise trying to force his way through, and Wimpinator doing his best, but Tortoise with a really ballsy move there. He gets it done. He's up into second. Great move from the McLaren driver. Beautiful driving, and Wimpinator loses that spot, but he's still on the podium. So yeah, it's not looking too bad for Wimpinator. I think he'd be quite happy that from 10th on the grid, but Tortoise, the fantastic maneuver, and he gets it done. And now Wimpinator will probably have to look behind him and worry about Contrast, who has much fresher tyres than him as well.
Yeah, Contrast catching up quickly already to Wimpinator, and Wimpinator did everything in his power to prevent Tortoise from getting past, but ultimately Tortoise, with the fresh tyres, is able to brake so much later and have such better traction that it was inevitable for Tortoise to get past. So Tortoise now running in P2 and probably will be running away from Wimpinator. The gap is now already up to 1.5 seconds. And Pure Eye Contrast, it looks like a matter of time before we see another battle with
speaking
Wimpinator
of gaps, Prying Stingray has reeled in the gap to Dubsy. He's so much good. Look at this.
He's going to go for a move in turn 1. He's got no grip, Dubsy, not anywhere on the track. And,
defense to the inside, but Prying Stingray throws it down there anyway. They're banging wheels. These two have had some bad blood earlier in this race. Dubsy's got to take to the sort of escape there at turn 2, but Prying Stingray fights it back. Yes, Dubsy just about holding. Wow, Prying Stingray throws it up the inside. these guys are not looking very friendly at the moment. They're banging wheels all over the place. Very aggressive driving
I
between
still
the
think they have
two.
something to settle from earlier on, and as Prime Stingray, Dubs is trying to break late, but Prime Stingray surely has got the moves done now. As,
It's
Dubs
almost a
pulls out of that
contact
one.
sport here in Singapore, but Prime Stingray makes his way through. Yeah, a lot of wheel banging, but nothing too bad, and he does get the move done. So Dubsy drops to sixth, and for Dubsy, he's just got to keep his head down, keep it out of the wall, and come home and grab these 8 points. And then God knows what he's going to do in the championship. We haven't even really talked about that much, but he's losing a massive amount of points to the championship leader Maznat, who currently, if these results remain, would gain 17 points from this race, and that would take the lead up to 57 with only 5 races left. So yeah, this has been a very clean and controlled drive from Maznat, and he's just got to bring this car home. He's got 8 laps to go, well 7 after he crosses the line here, and just bring home 21 seconds back to the next car. So yeah, Maznat just got that job to do, whereas Dubsy is going to have to really scratch his head after this race and work out what on earth he could possibly do to get himself back in the championship, because he really needs some misfortune for Maznat at this point.
But I think that's what makes Maznat the strong driver that he is. Like he keeps himself out of trouble and is now leading this race by 20 odd seconds. And that is what Maznat's good at. Maznat is good at keeping it consistent and being so clean and fresh on his tyres as well. As we saw earlier with the wet tyres, with pitting late, being able to pit late. And so there were a couple of guys pitting earlier on. He's got a clean driving style, and I think that's what's put him this far ahead of Dubsy. Like he's more of an aggressive driver, and that makes him win races as well. Sometimes, like very dominantly. I think Dubsy, he's got maybe 1/10, maybe a couple tenths on Maznat pace-wise, but Maznat just so consistent, and Dubsy just being too aggressive and sometimes making the wrong choices, either strategy-wise or overtaking-wise. And I think that's what's costing Dubsy in this championship, really.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting as well, because from last season, Maznat spent half of season one in the pits fixing front wings after running into the back of other cars, and this season he hasn't put a single foot wrong. Every single race has been first or second. It's really been sort of a flawless championship season from him, or championship run, I guess you'd say. He's not won it yet, but he's definitely looking more and more like the favourite to do so, and yeah, just been extremely consistent. And Dubsy, he's won 4 races, he's shown some phenomenal pace at times, but he's not quite had the consistency of last season, and a couple of reasonably careless mistakes as well in qualifying, giving him qualifying bans for China and for Hungary, cost him a huge number of points, and then obviously throwing away the win in Belgium as well. And yeah, Dubsy will be maybe after the season he'll be looking back at this thinking that a couple things, maybe a couple of your mistakes, and he could have been right there even with points with Maznat, but it hasn't quite worked out that way, and Maznat's just going to bring this car home. Interestingly, Grunning Tortoise now in clean air is similar pace to him, is maybe a tenth a lap slower than Maznat, but it's very even between those two. Grunning Tortoise has really pulled away from Wimpinator as he got past.
I contrast all over the back of Wimpinator as well for the battle of P3, with the French Stingray actually also catching up to this pair in P5 now. So we'll be able to see a battle for P3 happening very soon, as Wimpinator is still going on this set of wet tyres. It's ran on for 26 laps. What an amazing drive so far from Wimpinator. Let's hope his tyres don't explode at the end. That would be a phenomenal drive by Wimpinator, regardless of where he finishes third, fourth or fifth. I think that is something that I'd have to take my hats off to. No such strategy in the way. I think that's actually the first time I've ever seen that on this game in a 50 or 100% race. So hats off to Wimpinator so far. That is if his tyres stay intact for the entire race. But Pure Iconoclast, all over the back of him. He's got a lot of fuel left as well. Pure Iconoclast seems like a couple of guys have made the mistakes with fuel in the car at the start of the race. And I think Pure Iconoclast and, for example, Tortoise, they are two of them. Pure Iconoclast looking very, very quick and he looks a lot more patient than for example, Dubsy or LJB earlier. Or Tortoise for that matter. But
yeah, contrast is very, very consistent, and I think you say a very sort of level-headed driver. He doesn't make too many errors, but I imagine at this point of the season he might be getting a little bit frustrated with finishing in 4th place. So we'll see if a dive comes out somewhere. He's very close to Wimpinator through this final sector. A couple of these guys grabbing these 5-second stop-go penalties for track limits, which is a little strange. Normally it's a 3-second penalty for that. So I'm not quite sure what they're cutting. Might be just down to the final corner or something like that, but. Yeah, also Prying Stingray is catching these guys very quickly. He's had a phenomenal recovery drive, and yeah, he's reeling them in. Look at this, it's already down to a second. So Prying Stingray on the charge as well. We're going to have a 3-way fight for 3rd.
Yeah, we're going to have a 3-way fight for 3rd. I haven't actually looked at the penalties between these lots, and I'll do it in a moment as I stay on board with eye contrast now.
I feel like we might want to. I feel like we might want to not look at those.
Well, yeah, that's also a possibility. We can also leave it as a surprise at the end and see where the cars will end up. But pure eye contrast, it's not really all over the back on Wimpinator. It seems like Wimpinator's got great traction still, despite these tyres being so old. It seems that Wimpinator's struggling on the brakes, but the traction is actually still decent compared to eye contrast. But Prying Stingray, look at this. He's all over the back of these two and potentially the quickest out of these two as well. Looking at his pace earlier on and in qualifying. So will we see Prying Stingray getting involved very early on in this battle, or will he just wait it out and see what pure eye contrast does with Wimpinator before making any kind of move himself? All over the back of eye contrast. Is he going to go for a move up the hairpin?
Oh, he is. He throws it up the inside.
He's nearly going to go for a move on 2 cars. He hits Wimpinator.
There's contact as well. Yeah, contrast hitting the back of Wimpinator. This was.
They almost stood still when that contact happened. As Wimpinator is now losing a bit of his front wing. I don't know if that's from earlier on or if that has been there.
Sorry, Stingray around the outside of Wimpinator.
Stingray actually gets up to P3 now after being in P5. Half a lap ago. So I think we're making a good move. I don't know if that move on Wimpinator in the hairpin though was entirely justified, as he really pushed him through the hairpin and they almost stood still. But anyway, he's made his way past now, and he's essentially got the quickest tyres out of them all as well, having made 2 stops. Now pure eye contrast has got it all to do. That'll frustrate pure eye contrast as well. Seeing Stingray getting past that easily after being and after him being stuck for so long behind Wimpinator, as he's got to keep running him now. Is he gonna fling it up the inside somewhere? Surely not here, because Wimpinator's straight line speed is just it's absolutely mental, and pure eye contrast is going to have to try and do it somewhere else, because I think pure eye contrast should have a lot of better grip than Wimpinator.
Wimpinator's nearly lost it.
He hit one of these little curves on the wall. That nearly made him lose his car, and that will be a shame for Wimpinator if he throw this drive away into the barrier for over 4 or 3.5 laps before the end. But Wimpinator, look at the straight line speed. It's not going to happen for eye contrast on the straighter rack, and it's going to have to be somewhere in the more cornery sections of the circuit. For example, maybe sector 3, maybe sector 2. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got an idea on Wimpinator's setup here. He didn't kind of pick up on that with the traction earlier on. I think what he's done, this might have been why he was struggling a little bit in qualifying. He's probably running a slightly lower ballast, but I think as well, looking at the straight line speed and how that car is handling, I think he's just dumped all the front wing off of it. And that'll give him a pretty understeering car. Contrast up the inside on Wimpinator, as Wimpinator's made the mistake there. And they're going to be side by side.
Straight line speed will be better than the eye contrast, as we've seen all race, and Wimpinator not going to give up P4 easily, as Wimpinator is still up the inside. But here you can see where eye contrast can be strong, and he's just made his way past, but there's just more grip and more traction there.
Yeah, better tyres and
with Dubsy behind him, and Dubsy's only losing more and more time as LTB's now caught up to the back of Dubsy. So Dubsy's race has just gone from bad to worse as he picks up a 5-second stop and go. But that's not helping his cause now.
Ooh, Dubsy's let him through.
Let him go, but in a strange position. But I don't know if Dubsy knows that LGB's got a 5-second stop and go as well, because I saw him picking it up earlier. That's Prying Stingray's got so much pace in him still, and look at that 57.9. What a good lap by Stingray. But LGB look now in 6th position, has got that 5-second stop and go penalty, and Dubsy as well. There's no grip for Dubsy whatsoever. The running lap times of stuff under 2 minutes. As he then done a 2-minute 2, obviously letting LJB go, but it was in at the 2 minute sort of range with the Prime Stingray in the 57, and I think Maznat and that lot doing 58. As a Toto is actually Toto's catching to the back of Maznat. I think that gap was 22 seconds earlier. It's now 19.7. So
yeah, Tortoise looking a little quicker. He's looking a little quicker, but I think Maznat might have just eased off a little bit. You know, he's so far ahead, and in that kind of situation, you don't want to risk anything. Just ease off and bring the car home, and you can afford to drop a couple seconds that lead.
No, you don't really want to throw it away from that position. I'll tell you what, Wimpinator now losing a lot of time to Icon Trust. He's now 1.8 seconds behind him, but nevertheless, I'm hats off to him. What a great drive. He's fought the guys for as long as he could beautifully, sitting in that P2 and then P3 and then P4 and 5 obviously. But what a great drive by Wimpinator as Sir LGB is 8.4 seconds behind him, but surely that gap is not going to come down enough for LGB to actually be able to get into P5. So a great drive from Wimpinator so far, and I say that while he's not ended the race yet, so I think I need to wait with saying that until he's actually crossed the line before he bins it in like one of the last 2 laps. Because that's definitely not what we want to see.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in Belgium with Dubsy that the race is never over until you're through that checkered flag. We thought he had won that race and he threw it away to Bonchemont. So yeah, it's not over yet for Maznat. He's got to keep his concentration in the final moments. Pure Gold and Entei battling over 8th place, and Pure Gold getting very close. I do also want to give a shout out to D-Bros, who's on track. He's quite a long way back from these guys. I think he's been into the pits one extra time for a front wing as well, but he's on track to pick up his first point of the season. So for D-Bros, that'll be a phenomenal result for him in what's been a very difficult race for all of the drivers. A real marathon here as Pure Gold is hunting Entei. We saw how much trouble the drivers had passing Entei earlier on in the race. He ran a proper train for the first half of it, and will Pure Gold will have better fortunes getting past this Force India once again. Entei just struggling with turn 4 a little bit, and Pure Gold making up a good amount of time. He's in the slipstream now, and is he gaining anything? The driver's really struggling to gain much, but he does have a little bit of extra top speed, and he goes around the outside on Entei, holds it there. Beautiful driving from these two, just pushed a little wide, but he's going to try it on the inside now, down into the hairpin, but Entei defends and holds on. Pure Gold's not going to have too many more opportunities. We do have a yellow in sector 2. Not for any of the front runners, though.
Jordan Dittmer has just gone on, straight on turn 5 or turn 6, I think that is. I want to give a shout out to Jordan Dittmer. He's on the intermediate tyre, so he's obviously trying a little bit of a weird strategy here. But he just let all the cars through from P6 all the way to P9, and I think that's really good by Jordan Dittmer, showing that he knows what it is to be, how you let go of the cars, really. We've seen a lot of problems with backmarkers before and in other series as well. And Jordan Dittmer definitely being a good backmarker, so to speak. It's a great stuff by Dittmer there, as we don't really have any battles going on apart from the battle between Entei and Pure Gold, as Maznat has now started his final lap. So Maznat
Pure Gold very nearly in the wall.
Yeah, and he's lost a bit of his wing. I don't know if that's been there all the time, the right front. He lost a little bit of wing there, and seems to be understeering a little bit after that. As Pure Gold now goes through the final corner, yes, he is understeering a little bit, and I don't know if he's going to be able to close that gap to Entei in that last lap. But we'll keep an eye on it for the moment, because there's not really anything else going on, so we're going to stay on board with Pure Gold and Entei.
Keep an eye on where Maznat is as well, coming in the middle sector, so we'll hop to him when he's about to finish the race. Been a beautiful drive from Maznat here in Singapore. Really maybe the most difficult sort of conditions that you could possibly have on the F1 calendar. Maybe second only to a wet Monaco, but to be honest, with the length of this race, it really is a test of the drivers in terms of concentration. I mean, these guys have been going around for I feel like they've been driving for about sort of 65-70 minutes at this point, so yeah, it really is a marathon for them. Dubsy running a little deep.
Pure Gold's very close to Entei, but I think we want to go back to the leader as Maznat is rounding off the second to last corner, and now and now the penultimate corner. What a drive by Maznat! What a win for Maznat, and this surely puts him in puts him in the prime seat for the championship as he accelerates over the line and he wins the race here in Singapore for the PS4 Oceania League in AOR. As Tortoise had a great drive. What a drive by Tortoise, coming all the way from 5th on the grid to then finish P2. It's a great drive by him, showing a lot of pace as well in that second stint as he picks up P2. And with Stingray probably potentially also one of the drivers of the day. There's so many potential drivers of the day. Pure Gold picked up a 10-second time penalty, but Prime Stingray picks up a great recovery drive from pretty much last on the grid to P3, and with Icon Fast. I think he'll be happy with P4. I think that's an alright result after everything that happened from P7 on the grid, with Wimpinator picking up on P5, and what a drive. Also a potential driver of the day, Wimpinator, after doing the no-stop and pulling it off around Singapore, getting his tyres to the end with LGB picking up 6th position, and Dubsy. It's just championship is just I'm not saying he's throwing it out of the window yet, but he's hanging it out of the window, so to speak. With Entei picking up 8th, and then Pure Gold with that 10-second stop and go penalty. I don't know what he did there to get that. He might have just straight lined the chicane, but he's in P9 with D-Bros obviously P10 and Azatak P11, and I think the only one going is Rizek, who's multiple laps down.
I think Jordan's still making his way as well to the finish. These guys, props to both of them for sticking it out of a very long race here, and once again the longest possible race that you can get, and there's no points to them today, but who knows, they might have an opportunity in the final 5 rounds to get themselves on the board. D-Bro has managed it today. He'll be ecstatic, I think, with P10 and grabbing his first point in the season in such a difficult race. Rizek does come home and pick up 12th. Jordan will make his way through the final corners to come home and grab 13th. And if you are one of these guys that's, maybe as Jordan's gone straight on there, I think, sort of just missed his breaking point.
No grip with these intermediate tyres as well. That was one of the AI cars actually spins him out. Okay, well that's unfortunate. One of the AI
Come on, get a reverse around. Come on, you got 40 seconds, Jordan. But he needs to get this turn around. He'll make his way over the line. I don't think I've ever seen an AI car do that on a cooldown lap, but there we go. Jordan's got himself facing in the right direction. Again, it is 3 laps down, but he does cross the line and finishes the Singapore Grand Prix, and that's not something to to understate. It's been extremely difficult conditions. Many drivers with adventures into the walls. A lot of front wings broken here, and just very tough. Just a very tough race for all of the drivers, apart from one man, and that was Maznat, who drove really a flawless race. Obviously, it was the incident with Prying Stingray and Dubsy in front of him, and those two on lap 1, and I'm sure a lot will be said about that after the race. But after that point, from the end of lap 1, it was Maznat all the way to the flag, and what a brilliant drive from him. And Tortoise with a good P2. Might hear something in the stewards about him and Stewart. We'll see if that does pop up. And then, Prying Stingray on the podium after being, pretty much down and out at the end of lap 1. He was sunk in about 14th or 15th place, and he's come home to grab 15 points. Great drive from Prying Stingray.
Yeah, he's done 2 stops as well, Stingray. So that's definitely a drive that I applaud for. Pure Icon Fast as well, like keeping himself out of trouble for the main part of the race, and then finishing P4. I think that's something that he'll be content with, especially starting in P7. But what a drive by Wimpinator! A shout out to Wimpinator for pulling off the no stop, and then all the way from 10th in the grid to then finish 5th. Was looking to get on the podium for a long time in the race, but ultimately his tyres gave up a little bit on him, and Prime Stingray and Tortoise, and also Contrast managed to get past. And LGB, an eventful race with him, and definitely not an incident-free race, especially with that long battle with Entei, and then having that contact with Entei, putting him down in P6 with Entei unfortunately being in P8. And one of our championship contenders finishing P7, Dubsy, looked very quick, and I thought he was going to run away with it at the start of the race. But obviously that contact with the Stingray put him right at the back of the grid, and from there on, nearly really got back into it, and then the race just went from bad to worse, and that was it for Dubsy, finishing P7, picking up multiple penalties as well as wing damage. But yeah, we've got Pure Gold further sitting down in 90, was looking very good until the end of the race, really. And then only picking up P9, I think it won't be that happy with it, especially starting in P6. I think Pure Gold was hoping for a better result with D-Bros finishing P10, picking up his first point of the season with Azatak, Rizek and Jordan Didmer all finishing outside the points. But props to them for going across the line and keep going and finishing that what was a very difficult race here in Singapore.
Yeah, and the other thing to mention as well, at least in terms of these guys that haven't put a point on the board yet, for guys like Rizek and Azatak, these are important results because if you have 0 points, then the championship is ordered in the highest place finish. So for Azatak picking up 11th place here, that would bump him up to I think about 15th or 16th in the championship, ahead of the other drivers with 0 points. So yeah, making it to the end there and stretching it out and just bringing that car home in 11th place could end up giving him, a lot of positions in the championship and potentially, a good car choice or, well, at least a better car choice for next season. So just because those guys weren't picking up the points today doesn't necessarily mean that that those drives were in vain or anything like that. It's an important, result for those guys, and I'm sure that there'll be at least some sort of comfort in that. But yeah, once again, big props to D-Bros as well for grabbing his first point of the season, and yeah, very very happy for him, and to see that it's great, and hopefully he can grab a couple more in the final races of the season.
Well, the races are going to be as spectacular as this one, like with the weather conditions, and surely D-Rose has got another shot at getting points in the next couple of races. But what a drive by Masnai! It's just it's so clean in here and keeps his car out of trouble, and that's what gets him these good results. And his pace, obviously, like not discrediting his pace. His pace is fantastic as well, and that in combination with his consistency is definitely putting him in the prize seat for the championship. That is unless Dubsy can get it together for the next couple of races. And Dubsy, he's so quick, but he's a little bit too aggressive at times, and the choices that he makes is just sometimes not the right ones, and that's what cost Dubsy today. Definitely, a winning contender today, but just we're giving it to Masnat essentially after that first lap contact with Flying Stingray, who looked very very quick, by the way. I think Flying Stingray was one to watch out for, and was one that could take the battle to Masnat and to Dubsy. But unfortunately, that contact also put Prime Stingray at the back. A great recovery drive, nonetheless, by Prime Stingray getting in P3. And I don't know where that puts him into the championship, because I believe he's only just recently joined back, hasn't he, Kelly?
Well, yeah, he's still a reserve driver. So he's had 2 podiums in a row now, both of them being recovery drives, showing some fantastic pace. Obviously, I know Prank Stingray from season 1 as well. He was very quick there. So yeah, he won't show up on the standings, but if he does get himself a full-time drive, then those 30 points he's picked up so far will be applied, and that would already jump him to about 9th or 10th in the championship. So yeah, he's done very very well. Quick driver. I expect to see him up there battling for the remaining 5 races of the season. And it's talking about that championship. I mean, realistically, Dubsy, he has to win the next 5 races, and something has to go wrong for Masnat at one of them if Dubsy wants any hopes of winning this title. So yeah, Masnat looking very very good for it at the moment. Just needs to keep his head down and keep it clean, and so long as he ends up on the podium or thereabouts for the remainder of the races, he should just about have enough to clinch the title here and pick up his first AOR championship.
Yeah, it's great on that, but it's F1 League racing, it's AOR, anything can happen all the way until the last race of the season. So Masnat definitely not being able to rest just yet, as he is obviously leading that championship by 57 points. But if Dubsy wins a race and Masnat retires for whatever reason, that gap is down to almost half of that, and after that Masnat will be under severe pressure again. So definitely no time to rest for Masnat, but yeah, we'll see what happens at the next race, which I believe is at Malaysia. It's an interesting track, a very different track to to the track that we've
I'll stop you there. Our next round's
is it not
actually in
Malaysia?
Austria. Yeah.
Is it Austria?
Um,
Okay.
yeah, so we have a couple tracks out of sync this season to line them up with their real life Grand Prix counterparts, and obviously Austria is coming up soon in the calendar and in real life as well. So the Austrian Grand
The exact
Prix.
opposite as well. It's the exact opposite as well. Of a track like Singapore, obviously, Singapore being one of the longest tracks with so many corners, in Austria, what a track with a lot straight. It's a short track and a track where the pace can be very close between the grids. So definitely looking forward to that then. As I unfortunately will not be joining you for that commentary, I don't believe, because I do believe I'm away. So that's a massive shame, because that is a race that I definitely will be watching back. But you're on your own for that one, unfortunately, clearly. Um, yeah, definitely looking forward as to see what Dubsy and Maznat and maybe a couple of other drivers like Flying Stingray can do. Because I mean, Flying Stingray can still get into this, can get involved in this championship fight, not points wise, but definitely racing and position wise.
Yeah, I mean,
So maybe he can
if
throw
he
a
starts
ball
winning
from
races, that'll have a big impact. But I think we're gonna start to close things up here now. It was a very interesting race in Singapore, a very long race, 62 minutes in the end was the final race time from Maznat. So it's been a real marathon for these guys, and yeah, great drives from a lot of a lot of drivers out there, some fantastic skill shown. If you're looking for some more racing content, obviously we have the real life French Grand Prix coming up in just a few hours time, so make sure you enjoy that. If you're wanting some more AOR content, you can head over and check out the replay of the Xbox stream. And see what went on. There's always some good racing over on that side, and then we'll also have the European leagues at 8 p.m. UK time tonight. That'll be the top tiers from PC, Xbox, and PS4. We can watch myself and Dominic here tackle the Marina Bay circuit, and we'll also have some streams from other tiers as well. A couple other F2s and F3s, I believe, at least on the PS4 side. And then the next race in our championship here on PS4 Oceania will be next week at the same time. So that's 11 a.m. UK time, and that will be the Austrian Grand Prix. It's a short, fast-flowing circuit. It's only got 8 corners compared to Singapore's 24. So who knows? Maybe the drivers will need to put in a third as much practice for that next round. But I think it's a much-loved track by a number of the drivers as well. So I assume that they'll put in quite a lot of practice for that. It's quite a fun track to drive. But yeah, that'll be our next round out. And Dom, do you have anything else you would like to add before we close things up?
Not really, no. I mean, we discussed everything after the race that we needed to. Yeah, I think without further ado, we can thank the people that have watched this race for watching, and we hope you tune in for this race next week.
All right, cheers. Thanks, guys, and I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday.